NFL trade deadline fast approaching. Buyers and sellers assembling prior to the Tuesday, November 4th deadline. Today's conversation taking us to a perpetual place of need. That's off the edge. Coming off a late game stop and win number one, Jets outside backer Jermaine Johnson, a name of interest as we take a look at the career profile, the 26th pick in 2022. Now in year 4, has reached Pro Bowl heights before, but could he be the piece to shore up a second level or off the edge for a contender? In studio, Joe Musso, always excited to explore alongside the two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden, NFL analyst Emory Hunt. And our topic of discussion today is Jermaine Johnson. And guys, this is the type of talent everybody's looking for, an edge bender, but it is that off-ball backer type. So I want to talk about fit, I want to talk about need, and I want to talk about compensation. Let's start with the Eagles, who sort of, Max showed their hand with the reintroduction of Brandon Graham. They need help off the edge. They're going to be the first ones to tell you. How much does this make sense there?
It makes a lot of sense for the Philadelphia Eagles, to your point, because of the issues at the edge rushing position. They called on a Eagle great and Brandon Graham to come off the couch, to get out of the car pickup line and get back in uniform because they need help, not to mention the injury concerns to Nolan Smith. So when you look at the Eagles right now, I mean, their leading sack guy is Ojimo, who's a defensive tackle. He leads them in sacks this year with 4 sacks. Jalen Carter just got his first sack a year ago. So this is a team, in terms of this move, it's all about putting all your chips in the middle of the table, Emory Joe, for another championship like one. When you look at some of the top level teams in the NFC, you have to find a way to put pressure on those said quarterbacks, and that has been the calling card for their defense over the last few years, especially a year ago, in terms of putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks and, most importantly, sacking quarterbacks. This will make all the sense in the world for the Eagles, and we've seen them make moves. Howie is not afraid to roll the dice to make a move to make his team better. I think adding a guy like Johnson would be huge for their team in terms of what they could do defensively.
Especially when you think about, let's say, compensation, right? If they're going to toss maybe a late first-round pick because they're going to be picking late in the first round, or a late second-round pick, so an early day 2 pick, it makes sense because you're getting a known asset and allows you to get someone that can hit the ground running with Johnson. And when you think about that list that we showed you, someone like Jalen Hunt is ideally more of an outside linebacker in a traditional sense, maybe a sandbacker. He could rush, but he definitely has the athleticism to drop back in coverage. We saw him have a pick 6 the other day. So when you think about where Johnson can fit, I know Johnson can do some of those similar things, but he wants to be a dog that goes and hunts. So he wants to put his hand in the dirt, get upfield. That's what they need. That would alleviate a lot of the need for a Brandon Graham, and therefore Johnson can step right in, play really well, and then extend himself with the Philadelphia Eagles.
And I think for the Eagles this season, not necessarily getting the production, that they often get in the middle of that defense. That's going to come along as well, but off the edges, trying to shore some things up and make another run at another Super Bowl. I'm glad you bring up scheme fit because he's a 3-4 outside backer. Some of those guys seamlessly fit into an edge role. Mac, you talked about his collegiate experience of just playing a 4-3 traditional edge type. For the Cowboys, is scheme at all an issue when you project him there?
No, I don't think scheme would be an issue for Jermaine Johnson in any defensive team, with any team defensively, because of the versatility. When he was at Florida State, he was a guy who put his hand in the dirt. When you look at the Cowboys under Matt Eberflus, no question, that's a 4-3 type system, and I think he would fit in nicely. But this makes too much sense for the Dallas Cowboys. All right, I don't even have to say anything, viewers. Just look, right? You know how they say, may we have a moment of silence. Don't close your eyes, just look. This is all you need to see why it makes sense for the Dallas Cowboys to go ahead and make a move for a guy like Jermaine Johnson. Second worst points per ball game. Second worst total yards.
That's a lot of yards.
Second worst passing yards. Worst passer rating. Opposing quarterbacks, their passer rating have been outstanding against the Dallas Cowboys. And when you look at how bad the Dallas Cowboys defensively, how bad they've been, they're still in the playoff hunt. Mathematically speaking, they're still in the playoff picture because of their offense. So if you add a guy like Jermaine Johnson, because of his skill set, and when you look at the potential, remember his last 4 healthy seasons, he had over 7 sacks, 7.5 to be exact. He made the Pro Bowl. I understand he's coming off that Achilles injury, but this is a guy that can actually help you this year, and you can have him for future references as well as moving forward with this team moving forward in the future. So this makes perfectly great sense for the Dallas Cowboys because of how bad their defense has been, especially not having a dominant edge rusher already in uniform for the Cowboys.
And what I love about his game, going back to what he did at Florida State, he's actually very good versus the run. And that's something that they also need, because you saw all the worst right there. They can't really stop the run as well. And when you have a defensive end that's just not one of those guys that just want to go and tee off on a quarterback, that can actually hold up the edge, play physical and setting a physical edge, and also getting after the quarterback, he's your trifecta of a defensive end. So in Dallas, it makes great sense. Compensation will always be key for them. How can they go ahead and make this move? Man, we know they definitely need it because who they got rid of, and they're trying to get that production from Micah Parsons with, 5 different players, and it just hasn't really manifested itself just yet. But getting a guy like Johnson that is still ascending as a talent, even though he's coming off an injury, the year before, this is someone that could definitely help that defense out.
All right, our next hypothetical takes us to Baltimore, and it was interesting to see what they did to the Chicago Bears a day ago. They loaded that box, but it was oftentimes bringing a safety down. Kyle Hamilton getting involved in that run-stop game. You'd like to be able to rush 4 traditionally, and that defense sort of start to take form a little later than we're used to seeing it, but this is a team, and it's just me and you now, Emory. They're trying to chase down the Pittsburgh Steelers, and yesterday was a big moment in both of those outcomes in that effort. Are they ready to make a splash like a Johnson?
They are significantly ready. That's why I like the Ravens fit here best for them for 2 reasons. One, when they lost Justin Madubuike, they lost their guy on the interior that really was a threat that opened up everything defensively.
Yeah.
And number 2, when they moved Odafe Owe, whom they drafted early. So now it's just Mike Green, whom they drafted this year in the first round, is David Ojabo, who hasn't really been the guy since he got hurt during his pro day, and Kyle Van Noy, who's up there in age, who had to bring back to be the guy for their defense. He's a great talent, as well as Mike Green started to come along. He had a great play yesterday against Chicago. This would be the perfect fit for a Jermaine Johnson to come in right away and be that guy off the edge. If he could team up with Mike Green and also Kyle Van Noy, they won't have to bring those safeties down. Now they get those safeties a little bit more in coverage, play on the ball as opposed to trying to be involved in the run game, because now you just added a starter along with Green and also Van Noy. I think this would be a great fit for Baltimore.
I was confused when they traded away Odafe to the Chargers. I was definitely surprised to see that because of the potential and the youth movement that he has in terms of trying to reach his peak. But yes, I agree with Emory. Even though I don't want to say this because I don't want to see the Ravens get any better on the defensive side, but if they can add another dynamic, versatile pass rusher to what they have with Kyle Van Noy, because he's their best edge rusher right now. Even though he's the elder in the room, he's still playing at a high level when he's healthy, but just adding more depth to what they have going on. Because for them, every game is like a game 7 for the Baltimore Ravens because of the slow start. You look at trying to make that significant playoff push to be relevant in your division. And if you get into the playoffs, you would need a guy like a Jermaine Johnson when you're chasing around the Pat Mahomes of the world, when you're chasing around the Josh Allen of the world. Heck, now Indiana Jones is a guy you have to throw on your bulletin board as well. Daniel Jones, when you look at what they've done and seeing that they potentially will have an opportunity to have a nice seat in the playoffs.
We'll see if Johnson crosses that deadline. They're still in East Rutherford, or if he is on the move. It's not our picks, and it ain't my money. Most consecutive losses to begin a season. A 7th loss, but not an 8th. A win against Cincinnati on Sunday, but still a seller. We'll see what the Jets do.